Okay, my name is Nathan Selena. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of do an introduction to the lab environment for this class. So this is CIS 2810, and which is basically an introduction into the cloud infrastructure class. What we're going to do is we're going to go into learning modules, and as you know, the labs or the activities start in Chapter 2 or Module 2. Now the modules are designed that in the very beginning you can see what they're about. So it'll tell you, hey, which chapters we're going to cover, what they're called. Here's a quick bullet point summary of what they're about. Here's a quick text that gives us an idea as we're reading into them. We do the same thing for the other chapter as well. Here's the reading for it. If you are on campus, you can just click right there, and this will bring you right to the book, right to the first chapter of the 2 chapters we're going to read for that module. If you are home, you can go to this link. Now this link will ask you for your password if you're at home, and your username. Your username and password will be the same as the one you have to log into MyCNM or Blackboard or wherever else. If you're on campus, it doesn't matter no matter what. It will link to the CNM sign-in. As you come down, you'll see the activities. All of these activities will be done, and you'll take screenshots. Okay, so right here's the instructions. So activity 4.1, you're going to take a screenshot after step 13, which is probably one of the last steps. Okay, which is the last step. And so you're going to save them all to one document. Now your page is going to look different than mine. Since mine is an instructor account, I don't have the submit button, but you'll have a attach button or browse button where you can take that document that you've saved with all the screenshots, and then you can upload it for grading. Now these are the PDFs. The PDFs come from 2 sources. First is NetLab. NetLab has an infrastructure and has passwords and things like that in order to get to vCenter and vSphere and that kind of thing. And so I have taken those instructions. So this is what we got from MDG. Here are the passwords, and here's how to navigate to vCenter. I've added the book's instructions. So right here, we're going to chapter 4, and we try to look at the first exercise, which that's the 3rd exercise. Right here, you can see these instructions here are basically these. Okay, and so there shouldn't be any real difference except for window size, that kind of thing. So I've tried to make that as clear as possible. The next thing you have to do, and again, you can stay on the book if you prefer to get your instruction from here, or just the PDF. I try to make it as convenient as possible and leave everything in learning modules so you don't have to do anything else. You do need to log into NetLab. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and log into NetLab. Okay, I'm just going to move it over so no one sees my username and password. Just one moment. If you forget your password or can't get in, just let me know and I will reconnect it. I'm using Chrome, so it will come up with, well, I'll wait. Right here you hit Start Access. If this were Firefox, you'd have a little window that appears. In this case, it's Chrome, so it's on the bottom. Say Keep, hit Open, and Continue, and then Run. And so right now it's doing a diagnostic. It's asking me if I want to go into the lab. I'm actually going to relinquish this one, even though it's the one we want to go to, because I want certain things to happen. At this point, I'm going to say Schedule. Now you won't see this view. I'm going to schedule it as an instructor. All of you have your own pod in this class, every one of you. And so when you schedule your pod, try to make it a little bit longer than you expect. Okay, now as I was saying, all of you have your own pod. That's a two-edged sword for that one. Okay, so the reason for that is that some of the labs will build on each other, and because they can build on each other, you need to have them persistent. That's why you each have your own lab. But if you make a mistake and ruin your environment, you're going to have to start over from scratch. And so you're going to have to email me and say, hey, Nathan, could you get me a new pod? And I'll do my best to get you a new pod. That won't take much. I have an extra couple that I built. If you feel that you've done a lot of work and you think it's going to continue to build, let me know, and maybe I could do a snapshot on it. Okay, so now we're in the environment. The only one you really need to click on is going to be the V client. This is how we're going to connect to vCenter. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it. It says, hey, do you want to keep this, or are you afraid of it? I'm not. I know what it is. Now I'm going to go ahead and start it. And I tell it to continue. And I tell it to run. Okay. This should not have happened. I don't want this to happen. Darn it. I mean, it's good that it happened, but obviously it didn't shut down properly. So let me do this. I'm going to, you don't have to do this. In fact, I don't want you doing this, but I'm going to tell this device to power off. Let's do it over here. Action vCenter. I'm going to tell it to power off. This is going to add a little bit to our video, but I want you to see the browser having problems. Now I'm going to tell it to power on. Okay, so now vCenter is powering on and off. The reason I'm doing this is because when you first come into your lab, it really has difficulty connecting to vCenter at first. And I want to show you what I meant in my email when I said you have to be patient. See right here, have to be patient. vCenter is starting. It's going to be a couple minutes. In fact, I might even pause the video. But just be aware, it's going to take a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second. I'm going to wait 1 second. You might get this. Web page unavailable. Don't freak out. Just continue to hit refresh from time to time. So now I'm going to pause the video until we get to our next web browser seemingly error, but it's not really an error. Okay, so at this point we're past that particular error, and so we're at one that the lab instructions was expecting. And so if you come over here, you go to the lab instructions, it'll say, hey, you'll see this privacy concern, it may be unsafe. Well, that's all in here, so that's not a problem. So let me go back to where we need to be. I'm going to say advance, proceed to unsafe. This is one of the ones, there's actually two of them that might occur, and this one's the second one. And this is basically saying that your web browser server, that's vCenter, isn't ready. And so if you see this, don't freak out, just be patient. There's another one that actually might occur, before this one, and again, just be patient. And so we're just going to go back and forth until we get up, get a drink of water, come back. And so I'm going to go ahead and pause this again, and when it's ready, we'll start it. Okay, at this point we actually got to where we want to go, and so we're going to put in the username and password. The username and password are also on your instructions. Here, the scroll up here is going to be vClient for the user, and it's VMware 123. So let me go ahead. I'm just going to minimize that. Go ahead and type in. Wait a minute. Let's make sure I'm right. I got too many windows open. There we go. vCenter. No, it's admin and then VMware. That's the password. I knew that was wrong. So admin and then VMware. It was this password over here I was getting mixed up. This is actually the password to get in the Linux box that we're currently in. Okay, so this is vSphere, and I'm not vSphere, vCenter, and here you have your control of your whole environment. This is truly an amazing thing. So if you want to see your hosting clusters, you can see these things. So I set you guys up with a hypervisor here. You have, it's a little bit different than the book. The book has a folder here. I didn't put the folder in there, but beyond that, it should be exactly the same thing. This is vSphere 6, so you should be good there as well. So let's just go ahead and just kind of do most of the lab from here. Okay, so from here, let's go ahead and let's just go to home. And you know, my hope is that you can do enough labs that you feel comfortable in it. You kind of know your way around. And I think that will occur as time goes on. And hey, if you wanted me to, I could build a couple pods where you guys can just break it. And every day it wouldn't be persistent. And so it would just restore to its regular thing. And so if that's something you guys want, you got to let me know. And I'll build it for you. Okay, so we're going to go to home again, like I said. Host and clusters is where you're going to spend a lot of your time. Okay, all these other things are very cool, but hosts and clusters. And so we'll go ahead and let that load. You shouldn't really have anything at this point. And then from here, when it loads up, we're going to go to manage and then network. So the idea of this particular lab is we're going to create a new vSphere standard switch. And then the next chapter we'll create vSphere distributive switches. And it's taking some time for some reason. I don't really understand why. I think I'll just go right over here. Okay, so I'm going to click on my hypervisor. And let's see, I'm going to go to manage. And now one thing I will say is the labels may be a little different. So on the book it has EXX 60A whatever. I don't care. Mine's different. It's no big deal. Okay. From here we're going to go to where were we? Networking. Okay. And let me just make sure I'm not say. Let's see. Networking, and here you have different types of connections you can create. We're going to look for VM kernel network adapter. Okay, so let's see. VM adapters. Okay, so VM kernel adapters. Okay. And let's see. Okay, I apologize. I keep on getting text messages from my boss. Okay, so I'm going to go to virtual switches, and over here you have add a host network. I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and we have different types of adapters that we're going to create. We're going to create a VM kernel adapter. Okay, so we're going to go and hit next. I'm going to say for a new standard switch. Then we're going to hit next again. Okay. All right, hopefully that was the last one. Okay, so we're at this point. And again, here we have selected the connection type, selected the service. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create a standard switch. So we're going to just go ahead and hit the plus symbol. Okay, we're just going to look at this to make sure there are any changes. There isn't. But we're just going to look at it, review the information here. Just take a while to read through that, not all of it, but just to familiarize yourself with it. And say OK. Then from here, I'm going to hit next. And I have to decide what kind of traffic is this going to support. It's going to support vMotion traffic, so I'm going to name it vMotion, vkernel. In fact, actually, let me be sure. I would name it vMotion traffic. Let's see what it says on the lab. I believe it should be, yeah, vMotion traffic. I think that would be best. We know it's a VM kernel traffic, so vMotion traffic. Okay, I'm going to hit next again. Over here, we're just going to leave it as assigned automatically for the IP address. Hit next again. And at this point, we're done. We're going to hit finish. And that's really all there is to the lab. And so what we've done is we've created this switch, and now it's ready to communicate between devices and vMotion. Now, what is vMotion? This may be something that I would be a good refresher. vMotion is the ability to move someone's client. So let's say someone logs into your system. They're on their computer, but they're actually connecting through vSphere into a data store. That's where their computer is really hiding or is at. And vMotion allows you to move from one server to the next without the user even knowing. So it's a very powerful thing. So at this point, I would want you to take a screenshot of this. So this is step 13, and you'd add it to your file that you're going to send up when you're done with all the stuff for chapter 4. So that would be the first screenshot. And so you can see it was a relatively short lab, so these aren't too bad. And I'm hoping this was helpful. The biggest thing I wanted to cover was if the web browser, once you get into when you're trying to connect to vCenter, doesn't come up right away, just be patient. It will come up. It's just vCenter needs to initialize and be ready for it. Okay, so that is it. And let me know if you have any questions.